Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. So today we're tackling a pretty uncomfortable truth about the tech world right now. Just because you're handing out shiny new AI tools to everyone in your company, well, that doesn't actually mean your organization is learning anything. Right now, we're stuck in what experts are calling the messy middle of AI adoption. It's this weird phase where, usage is absolutely everywhere, but real structural improvement, yeah, it's basically nowhere to be found.
Here's a quick roadmap of what we're covering today. First, the AI productivity illusion. Then, decisions over code volume, followed by building a feedback harness. After that, we'll look at evaluating AI loop health, the reward of compression, and finally, avoiding visible compliance. Let's get right into it. All right, part one, the AI productivity illusion.
So here is the absolute multi-million-dollar question from industry analyst Robert Glazer. Are your people just using AI, or is your organization actually learning from it? We hear these wild stories all the time, right? A team claims they used an AI agent to completely wipe out a 6-year code backlog in a single quarter. Sounds amazing. But as Glazer points out, clearing that backlog literally doesn't matter at all if your company isn't getting fundamentally smarter. The unit of adoption isn't the whole organization anymore, or even the team. It's the individual work loop.
And to put that into perspective, take a look at this data from labor economists and experts like Ethan Ding. It shows this incredibly stark K-shaped productivity curve. You can see senior engineer output is just rocketing upward, while the junior output, it's completely flat, maybe even declining. So that top-line growth everyone's bragging about, it's kind of an illusion. Think about it. If engineers are supposedly so much more productive now, the rate at which the actual product improves should be skyrocketing. But for most companies, it just isn't.
Which brings us to part two, decisions over code volume. Look, I am begging you here, please stop counting pull requests. Measuring token to output is literally just that old, broken bean counting reflex dressed up in a fancy new AI costume. To figure out actual ROI, we have to completely shift our mindset to measuring token to learning. That means we need to be asking, what actually changed in our organization because we spent those tokens? These are the exact questions you absolutely must be asking your teams. Real learning happens when a super fast AI prototype shines a massive spotlight on a weakness, killing a terrible product idea early and saving your company from wasting 6 months of work. That is huge. It's not about how many iterations you ran. It's about asking, hey, which decisions actually got better? And which of those work loops closed faster?
Moving right along to part three, building a feedback harness.
Okay, so how do we actually gather the answers to all those qualitative questions? Well, the game changer here is implementing what's called a feedback harness, or a loop intelligence hub. Right now, think about it, these brilliant AI discoveries are just trapped inside the heads of isolated individuals. Say a senior engineer uses an agent to crack a 2-week root cause analysis in literally an hour. That is mind-blowing. But how does the rest of the company learn how to pull that off? A feedback harness basically listens to the real work loop to capture that exact magic. And you can actually build this capability out in your own teams by following a pretty straightforward process. It starts with just collecting traces, instrumenting the points where human intent and verification leave a mark. You really want to capture the friction. You know, that exact moment the AI spits out total nonsense and a human has to step in and wrangle it back. By catching those signals, a loop intelligence hub turns that messy, qualitative friction into actionable stuff, like capability radars, investment briefs, and reusable workflows that end up leveling up everybody.
Let's look at part four, evaluating AI loop health. So real organizational learning, you can actually measure it just by watching how a team's relationship with AI matures over time. Because working with AI isn't just one static mode. A team that's stuck in that messy middle we talked about, they're going to rely on really tight synchronous handholding of the AI. Why? Because they just don't have the intuition or the tests in place to actually trust it yet. But a mature team, they know exactly how to apply back pressure. They confidently use looser delegation because they've already built the right guardrails. This comparison really nails the difference between a stuck team and a highly functional one. Ultimately, the goal is to establish what Glazer calls dark factory patterns. These are just specific classes of work where a team can write out the intent, let the AI agent run a super loose loop, apply just a little bit of back pressure to keep it on the rails, and consistently get high-quality, low-touch results. Keeping track of which teams have unlocked these repeatable patterns, that is exactly how you measure true AI health. That brings us to part five, the reward of compression.
The code base is a liability on your balance sheet, not an asset. Let that sink in for a second, because it is so counterintuitive. The absolute best engineering cultures view code as something you spend, not something you produce. Complexity compounds like crazy, and every single new line of code is just a brand new surface for bugs to hide. So if you're using AI coding agents just to churn out massive amounts of bloat, you are absolutely not improving your product. You're actually killing your long-term velocity and essentially buying short-term speed with a mountain of technical debt that you'll absolutely pay for later. As Ethan Ding points out, true organizational learning really shows itself through subtractive taste. Look, AI can help pretty much anyone build a faster, cheaper, totally average product, a Camry basically. But it is not going to magically help you build a Ferrari. The artisans who are out there building the Ferraris, they're defined by their taste to compress, to actually delete things, and to flat out refuse unnecessary features. A great team's real reward function is compression, not just endless, mindless production.
And finally, part 6, avoiding visible compliance. This is absolutely crucial. Never, ever turn these AI measurements into employee surveillance or some kind of rigid productivity score. If you take everything we've just talked about and twist it into a tool to police your teams, the whole system dies instantly. If people feel like they're being constantly judged on how much AI they use, or if their awesome new time-saving trick just becomes their mandatory new baseline workload, they are going to game the signals, for sure. They'll just hide their best experiments from management entirely. And if you make that mistake, you end up with the worst possible outcome: visible compliance and invisible learning. The entire goal of measuring token to learning is just to understand where AI actually changed the work so the rest of the organization can learn from it too. It is absolutely not an excuse to spy on your developers or hand down rigid AI quotas. So, has your organization built a learning system, or did you just buy a lot of seats? I really want to leave you with that provocative thought to chew on and take back to your management teams as you plot your escape route from the messy middle of AI adoption. Because look, anyone can just rent intelligence and buy a bunch of software licenses, but real operational control, subtractive taste, and genuine organizational learning, those have to be built from the ground up. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.